Good morning on this glorious Sunday in Boston. So yesterday after Shabbos, when we opened our phones, we saw the remarkable story about Israel's retaliation against the Houthis in Yemen. Now, just a little context, since October 7th, over 200 times, the Houthis have tried to attack Israel with drones and with missiles. The Houthis are a proxy of Iran, which Iran used for many years to attack Saudi Arabia and take over Yemen and destabilize the Middle East and anyone that's not a Shiite like them. And for the past 9 months, Israel has relied on America and the UK to retaliate. But what America has done has been played a game. They attacked things that were insignificant, that didn't change the landscape or the game, and allowed the Houthis to continue attacking ships in the Red Sea, and really did no damage. But everything changed on Thursday night when at 3 a.m. or Friday morning, a drone all the way from Yemen managed to get through Israel's detections and explode on a building in Tel Aviv, killing one person and injuring others. And Israel realized that the time has come not to rely on America anymore, but to itself attack Yemen and make sure they understand that there is a cost for killing Israelis, and Jewish blood and Israeli blood is not cheap. And Israel did it at midday to send a message to Iran, because Yemen is 2,000 miles away from Israel, 2,000 kilometers away from Israel, further than Iran. And they did it midday, and everyone saw the ships, the planes going, yet there was nothing they could do. Even Israel refueled in mid-air, and yet the Houthis could do nothing. And there was a message to Iran, who supplies them, and to Hezbollah, that nothing will be off limits. Israel hit our oil refinery, which they said was used for humanitarian aid, but it was a cover-up for also being used to get missiles from Iran. And what Israel was telling Beirut and all others that don't think there's anything off limits, if it's a duty-free in Beirut, near where Hezbollah hides missiles, Israel will not allow you to attack its citizens. And the truth is that what Israel did is really what kind and passionate and compassionate people do. Because ultimately, the only way to stop terror and to protect people that are being killed and murdered is to use a strong hand. In this week's Torah portion, we read the story of Pinchas. At the end of last week, we read about Balak. Balak brought Bilam to curse the Jewish people, but he couldn't. But he had an idea for Balak. Bilam says, God's not letting me curse them. But there's a little idea that you could do. Their God hates promiscuity and idol worshipping. If you get your young ladies to make the Jews sin and to worship idols, etc., then God will do it on his own. And of course, at the end of last week's Torah portion, we read the tragedy of 24,000 Jews dying in a plague because the Jewish people sinned with the young Moabites and worshipped Baal Peor, idolatry, and also intermarried with them. And then at the end of the portion, Zimri, who was one of the leaders of Shimon, tries to make a tremendous rebellion against Moses and laughs at Moses and the word of God and tries to say that Moses wasn't allowed to marry his wife, which was of course legal because the Torah allowed it. It was before the giving of the Torah, and she converted. And Moses doesn't do anything. But Pinchas rises up to the occasion and annihilates Zimri. And the rabbis begin this week's Torah portion. It's called Pinchas because God says that Pinchas was rewarded because of his courage. And he became a Cohen, even though he was born to Aaron after Aaron became a Cohen. And only those that were born after, became Kohanim, and Pinchas was born before, God still made him a Cohen. But interestingly, in the second verse, the portion says, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas was the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen. And the rabbis say, why does he have to tell us that he was the grandson of Aaron? We know it already from the end of last week's Torah portion. And the rabbis say something remarkable. You see, Aaron was the epitome of kindness. When Pinchas did what he did, people say he's a zealot. He likes killing people. But what the Torah does by telling us that Pinchas was the grandson of Aaron was telling us that by nature, Pinchas was just like Aaron, a man full of kindness, full of love, full of compassion. Yet for the future of the Jewish people and for their protection, he had to do what he did. Don't think he did because by nature he liked killing or he liked fighting. And the same is so true about Israel today. Israel is the epitome of kindness. Every time there's an earthquake or any other crisis in the world, Israel is the first people to send rescuers. We're such a small country, but we want to save and help people. Even in Gaza now, they just found polio in the sewage, and Israel was trying to get vaccines in to help the people. By nature, we're kind. By nature, we love peace. By nature, we want to live at peace with our neighbors. But don't mistake weakness with kindness. The only way to ultimately have peace is through security and strength. And that's what Israel did yesterday in Yemen. By letting the Houthis in Iran and Hezbollah know that we will not tolerate in any what way Israelis being killed or targeted. Why? Because that's what true compassion is. That's what true love is. That's what Pinchas was, the grandson of Aaron, who by the epitome of being a man of kindness had to take a stand to stop the death and to stop the plague. And the same is true with Israel. And we want America with us, and we want UK and the whole Western world. But if they don't understand what it's going to take to fight off radical Islam, then Israel has to go it on its own. Because ultimately, the world needs courage, and the world needs kindness that translates into strength and protection of humanity and human beings and dignity and freedom. And if we don't do that, the world will be a dangerous place. May we all learn from Pinchas and from Israel to stand strong with conviction against hate and radicalization that we see going on in the world. Have an awesome